Welcome to Local Everywhere. I'm Cynthia Pula. My guest today is Eleonora,
Mhm.
and she has an organization called Grow mm, Grow Your Whole Voice.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about Grow Your Whole Voice.
Okay. Well, it's a consulting business basically that I just launched on Solstice in June. And I've been doing some of the work that I do with these services for decades now to help people in finding their singing voice and their performance voice. And I've just basically expanded that. Into pretty much any kind of art that people might want to do, any kind of activism that people might want to do, because my own experience has been that the creativity that we can bring to activism allows it to be done more joyfully. So that's part of it for me. So I bring that to other people now as well.
Mhm. Tell us a little bit about your activism. How do you mentor people doing that?
I so far I haven't actually had any clients that I've mentored specifically in activism. I've been in kind of leadership roles in various community endeavors over the years. Um,
Hmm.
but I am kind of looking forward to being able to mentor anybody who's interested in bringing more creativity to their activism. So, and my own activism has, I was, you know, I was probably a reluctant activist. Even I remember even like 10 years ago saying, I'm not an activist. And yet I guess I gradually realized that by nature I really am. And I really my desire, I guess, and my motivations and inspirations to help people uh with less than myself, and to help people more marginalized in society than myself, and to help try and change all these systems that are oppressive to some of us,
Hmm.
uh, has only grown with the times.
Hmm. So tell us about y- your interaction with your clients.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. The clients that come to me are people who are often at a crossroads in their lives, people who want to be engaging more creatively in their lives, people who want to be engaging more authentically, and specifically using their voice, not just their physical voice, but however they express themselves more authentically and more real, I guess.
Hmm.
And so the kinds of things that we do to help people solve those problems, the kind of benefits are, practices and techniques that people can use, and exercises that people can use to transform how they express themselves creatively, and especially how confident we feel to express ourselves. That's an issue across the board with a lot of people. Is it's tough to find our voice. There's a lot of creative monsters out there, as Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way, has put it, trying to kind of stifle our voices and the uniqueness and diversity of us as as people. So
So you live in the Northeast.
in Vermont, yeah.
So is your clientele mostly in the Northeast, or because of the technology, can you go um, throughout the country or worldwide?
Right now, I have about half and half. I have half clients that come to me live and in person in my living room,
Mhm.
and half of my clients are generally on Zoom. Some are still within Vermont and New Hampshire, and then I have a few clients in Pennsylvania, and I've had clients in North Carolina. So yeah, it could be anywhere. It could be across the world.
Mhm. So do you consider what you do an art form?
It's for me, it's part and parcel with my art. My own art is music. and some visual art, poetry, blogging, and it all kind of comes together with the themes that I'm working with in my life.
Mhm.
Um, and then I guess I experience helping other people find their whole voice as also another thing that I do creatively. So it all kind of works together.
So, usually when somebody's personality is their personality, and to modify that personality takes a lot of effort on the mentor's part as well as the person themselves, correct?
I love that notion and that mention that you made of that. I love it so much because one of the things I've struggled with the most myself in developing a more creative life is sort of concepts of what others think I maybe should be, or I've been told by society I should be, and what I feel myself to be and experience myself to be. And the way that I've gotten stronger with my own creativity and the way that I try to help others do that as well is to find what is real about us, not necessarily to change who we are in any way. Sometimes, especially if performance is a thing, right? Sometimes changing how we behave on the outside might look a little different if we want to find the way to connect with an audience, um, in ways that they connect with back, right? So sometimes we might behave, I guess, in ways that are maybe different from our personality. I've
Mhm.
acted in a bunch of uh, per, theater performances and musicals and stuff, and yeah, I'm acting different then sometimes than what my natural personality is. But always for me, I'm finding a seed, and always I'm helping others find the seeds of who they really are and how they can bring that into however they're expressing themselves. Did that
So,
that answer that or?
yeah, that's good.
Okay.
So an actor or an actress, when they're up on the stage, they assume a different personality, a different person of who they really are. So, do you work with people like that?
I have, including myself, and that, yeah, it's one of the funnest things to kind of try to find, um, yeah, the seeds of who we are in becoming for a moment a whole other person.
Mhm,
Uh, some of my favorite stuff to play around with in my own life, specifically, I'm thinking of one other person that I supported at one time who was actually a youth teenager, was in gender. In play, performing as somebody different from the gender that we usually would present ourselves in.
mhm, mhm. So, what has been your most challenging situation?
You mean particular situation with a client or
Yeah.
it just okay, let me feel into that. Okay, I'll say, so far lately with, I haven't had one with the whole voice stuff yet. I haven't had a particularly challenging situation with the whole voice piece, but there were a number of when I was basically just giving voice lessons and still approaching it as like who are you really and how do you ground in what you want to say. I was still approaching it that way then. One of the more challenging situations has been with people, a few clients who. Hmm, were kind of sticking themselves to a place, not allowing themselves full permission to fully be themselves or even to explore what that might be. Being very focused on what they think they should be as opposed to what they feel from inside that they
Mhm,
are. And there's fear at the heart of that. So yeah, whenever fear crops up and is unnamed and unnoticed with
mhm.
a client, those are the most challenging situations.
But fear, a lot of people who have fear, a lot of people are afraid to project themselves, right?
Understandably, it's vulnerable as hell.
Right, right. So how do you deal with that?
Yep. Yep. I mean, I've dealt with that in my own life too. I did, by the way, I didn't, this is relates to the fact that I didn't sing in public till I was 33 years old.
Mhm,
And I'm 51 now. Uh, so dealing with fear was a big part of my journey towards getting to where I to the wholeness with my voice. Uh, and there are techniques, I guess, that I've learned through mindfulness meditation and cognitive behavioral therapy and various other paradigms, I guess, that I've had a strong, almost obsessive interest with and looked into. Um,
mhm,
and so, yeah, working with how to give ourselves permission, working with how to kind of like acknowledge the fear and be present with it and let it move through us, without sort of grabbing onto it in ways that don't serve very well for progress or movement forward. Um, yeah, so techniques, exercises, um, and I guess a big thing that is new in what I'm doing with Grow Your Whole Voice that I haven't specifically named or done before related to fear is there's a vulnerability agreement that I ask everybody to agree to, if we're going to work, especially one-on-one. Um, and basically that agreement helps us to understand that we don't have to jump off any cliffs with this process,
mhm,
and at the same time, the we are going to get where we want to go only probably by stretching a little bit from where, into some discomfort. And I do make a distinction between discomfort and unsafety. Feelings of discomfort, um, if we accept them and allow them, don't really lead to overwhelm related to fear. Feelings of unsafety quickly lead to overwhelm in my experience and my observations with people. So, with feelings of fear and safety. So I kind of ask people which they think they're feeling. And I ask them to kind of keep that on the table. They don't have to tell me everything or the reasons why they're afraid at any given moment unless they want to. And people do end up telling me a lot. However, I do ask people in the vulnerability agreement to just understand and be aware that vulnerability, the choice of vulnerability, and when to be a little more vulnerable in order to stretch ourselves, is a beautiful part of the process, actually.
people have a certain way of looking at themselves. So what you're doing is telling them to stand back a little bit and reassess who they are to make a change, right?
Yeah, or maybe even think about it consciously for the first time in some cases. Uh, and
Mm,
most of us sort of, especially these days with identity stuff, have thought to some degree about who we are, and how in the relation to how we present ourselves. Um, some experience that I've had with a thing that I have done also called the listening project has led me to believe that we to want to help people to go a little deeper, I guess, to find the deeper layers of who we are.
mhm.
And then I think we get blindsided less by our fears and by the discrepancies between us and the world around us and between us and other people. And
I found your contact information on an artist page.
yeah.
Um, so you consider yourself an artist?
Yes. That was
Okay.
a hard fought and one thing, even within myself. Um, at first, when I started to, like I said, I didn't sing till I was 33. And at that point, I definitely was terrified to call myself an artist. I didn't want to put myself out there like that. Culturally, it's not the most supported uh, position to be in in dominant culture, right?
Mhm.
Um, Although it's also or sometimes it's, like, put on a pedestal. It's either or, I guess, in a lot of ways in culture, and, those of us who are artists don't experience it that way, right? Uh, but, um, So where was I? I have been in a process. I think I started calling myself an artist probably, I guess I've been doing this now for 20, almost 20 years. And so about halfway through that time is when I started calling myself an artist, when I
Mhm.
finally owned the fact that, yeah, I'm freaking creative and I see things in the world that I take from the world and synthesize and create something new out of. And yeah, if that's not an artist, I don't know what is. um,
So
yeah.
I think all artists have a specific perspective that they're trying to share, with everybody else, and for them to share that perspective, they want other people to understand how they think and maybe incorporate that into their lives. Would you say that that's what you're doing?
Yes, I'd like to help everybody who wants to do that to do that. Um, uh, to yeah, I wanted to kind of mirror back exactly what you said, but the words left me. So,
Okay.
thank you though. The concepts are beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, um, just share your overall philosophy on why you do what you do.
The core of why I do what I do is that I want the world to change and I want to help it change. That is the core of it for me. That's the why beneath all of the whys. Um, and I guess there's probably more whys beyond that as well, related to my spiritual experience and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But yes, basically, I I believe that joyful creative engagement is one of the biggest drivers for healthy change within the world. That's why I'm doing this.
So, do you think a, a lot of people, or maybe most people, have not tapped into their creativity?
I think that my observation, I guess, is that most of us have to some extent
Okay.
dabbled or in things. And at the same time, the message that I hear from a lot of people and have heard for, very strongly for 20 years since I started putting myself out there as a creative person, um, is that people want to do more and they want to do it more deeply. They want to do it more often. I hear a quantity thing and I hear a quality thing in that they want to do it more deeply and authentically and powerfully. Um, that's a message I hear. I don't think that that means that everybody is my client because there also needs to be a readiness for that engagement. It takes a lot of it can be intense and as anything powerful can be powerfully transformative.
So if somebody comes to you and says, "This is what I'm doing. I want to do it better. I want to do it more creatively," and if you feel that they're not ready for this,
Mhm.
what do you tell them?
Well, I start out with a growth path session with everybody anyway, where frankly I think it becomes clear to most people themselves whether they're ready for it or not, whether they're ready for um, a more full engagement with their creative self. Uh, a lot of people end up um, not feeling like they have the time and space and resources and energy to do it. And there is a privilege component to that, right? Like that when when we're when we are in a place where we have to be working very strenuously on meeting our basic needs, housing and shelter
Right.
and food. Um, yeah, uh, that is an obstacle. I will say that, my rates, for example, I have a desire and even it says on my website that if anybody wants to propose a different kind of exchange with me besides giving me money, that they're welcome to do so, to propose some other kind of exchange, that shows the value that we both would have in the experience. So I actually don't want to make financial resources any obstacle to anyone in doing this, in growing their whole voice.
That
However,
that
there
in it that in itself is pretty creative.
yeah, and I can't claim that specifically for myself. That is, it's a concept that a lot of people who are in activism work actually are working with and trying to find various ways to do that, to level the playing field, um, and all the other equity things.
Now, there's all kinds of people who do different kinds of activism.
Mhm.
Um, Usually the people that come to you, what do they do, to change the world?
Well, like I said, I haven't had any specific clients yet that are actively being activists or consciously being activists. So I guess the only answer to that I have so far is that anybody engaging creatively in an authentic way to me is already changing the world. um, for it, I mean, everybody that I have helped, everybody that I've witnessed, even people that I haven't had a hand in helping directly, that do start to engage more creatively and authentically with their whole selves, and how to express that, ends up becoming a more grounded, happier,
Mhm.
aware, like aware of diversity and complexity kind of person. So I think that in and of itself changes the world.
Well, we are living definitely in a complex society,
Mhm.
and I think it's getting more so by the day. Would you agree?
Yeah, and then the weird knee-jerk reaction is to, like, try and simplify it by, like, the either or, right? And us and them and all that. So yeah, I do find that creative engagement is inherently complex. And so,
Right.
inherently looking into the in between the lines, and studying splitting hairs, and and, and studying in various ways, not just cognitively, but sometimes emotionally, energetically, spiritually, studying complexity, studying the differences, the nuances, and the subtleties of life.
What gave you the idea to get into this field? What was it about this field that interests you?
It just happened. Um, it just happened, by me being myself, by me
Okay.
becoming more and more myself. I
Okay.
I definitely, I mean, I went to school for language,
Mhm.
modern language and linguistics, and in college, and that, definitely is part it informs a lot of what I do and what I bring to things. And then I worked with kids in various capacities. Mostly, I was going to be a secondary ed teacher, but then I got pregnant and dropped out of graduate school. And
Mhm.
I'm so glad I did. I ended up working with kids outside of a school system thing, and I don't know that I would have been strong enough, frankly, at that time to work within a school, within broken systems, basically,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, and oppressive systems. Uh, so yeah, then I did that for, I guess, 15, 20 years. It's overlapped as well with my music and performance teaching. So then I started doing that privately because of my own interest in first my physical voice and then gradually my whole voice. It
Mhm.
just sort of grew organically into my life. And I've been blessed and lucky, I'd say, to have the privilege to be able to explore that, all these parts of myself that have grown into something that I now have, and I'm ready to give, to put
So
out.
what's the difference between your physical voice and your whole voice?
Yep. For me, my physical voice was an avenue towards my whole voice. obviously most of us have a physical voice that we use to speak and sometimes sing and um, tell stories with verbally.
Mhm,
Uh, and it's also an area that a lot of people feel a lot of fear around within our society.
mhm,
Natural response to being, I think, somewhat silenced, many of us. Um, and so my whole voice came through once I started to learn about my physical voice, to just shift over to other people's experience that of people that I've worked with. Um, I'd say, wow, that's a really tough question, and I'm glad you asked, and I just want more time to think into it and feel into it because I've never thought of it that way before. I've known there's a connection, and I've witnessed other people have a connection, and I
mhm,
even have on my scheduling page, right? One of this I offer a whole voice consult service, and I offer what I call a body voice, this physical thing, right? That makes sound out of our bodies through our
right,
voice. I offer both of those for people who might, uh, y I offer a body voice specifically because it's how I have a lot of experience myself, and I wanna share that with people who wanna have it.
mhm,
But not everybody, I feel like, chooses to and or wants to and or feels the most affinity with their physical voice. I think a lot of people, and there's certain times in my life too, where people feel or we feel expressive through other ways, like painting, like writing,
mhm.
like community service. Like filmmaking. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's not all our voice isn't all about just this physical thing, even though a lot of us use it for that. And
Uh-huh.
it has a lot of power for when we can unlock it too.
I find, in my everyday dealings, basically, from my perspective, there's two types of people. There's a talented person that is kind of hesitant about sharing their voice with other people. And then there's people who are not so talented who go out there like gangbusters and kind of bluff their way through it, you know?
Are you speaking in terms of physical body voice right now or generally in just all expression? I just want
Generally.
generally. Okay.
Would
So,
you agree?
um, yeah, and then I'd put a third category into there of people who just don't ever really express themselves. And who don't even know that they want to, I guess. Um, or and I'm not saying that's everybody. I think that there's room for people in the world to not express ourselves, right? Like to just live our lives and be who we are and not be very expressive. Um, But yeah, of the people who have a desire to be expressive, yeah, I think you said people who are talented and sort of maybe hold themselves a little back. Was that the first thing you said?
Yes.
Yeah, and then the second thing was people who just go ahead and fake it till they make it or something.
Exactly.
Yep. And then yeah, there I have witnessed also that third category of people who really, really want to, whether they have talent, quote unquote talent or not. Um, that just find every reason not to do it because of
Right.
fear. And I would put myself in that category up to the point when I was in my 30s and got some supports and inspirations and also this just a sea change in my life that made it impossible for me to not do it anymore. Um, so yeah, I feel like if the desire is there, we can get there. I guess that's my experience. Anybody who the desire is there to express ourselves, we can get there. It might take a while, and
Right.
it might look different from what we imagined when we first thought we wanted it.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and it's very, very fulfilling.
So tell us how people listening to this can contact you.
Okay. My email address is a little long and weird. Maybe we could put it, maybe when you post it on YouTube, we could put it in the description. Does that sound
Okay.
all right? And then also I'm going to ask you to put a link in the description as well to my program descriptions and scheduler page.
Okay. Okay.
I'll send you those through email. And um yeah, those would probably be the best ways. My basic website is called projectgelinora.com. That's
Okay.
Jelinora, projectgelinora.com. And that has a Grow Your Whole Voice tab. It's got tabs to various art pages that I've created around my music specifically, and a blog, and a few other things too, you can explore me there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been listening to Jenny Elinora.
Mhm.
I'm Cynthia Pooler. This is Local Everywhere. And if you like this interview, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you, Jenny, and thank you everybody for listening. Have a great day.
Thank you, Cynthia.